It's 49ers-Cowboys week. My childhood is back. I grew up on this. I was born in 1988. I still remember those epic games early in the 90s. Those were my formative football memories. My first football memory being born in 88 was my dad yelling at the TV as Alvin Harper broke the huge gain in this January 1993 NFC Championship game at Candlestick when the Cowboys were underdogs and they beat the 49ers for the first time in that NFC title game. And the 49ers then would lose the next time, twice in a row, the year after that, before finally getting the Cowboys before Super Bowl 29. That was in January of 1995. So the 1992, 1993, and 1994 seasons were all determined by 49ers, Cowboys, NFC Championship games. So that's why it was so cool. And I'm going to bring this in from my monitor right here. That's why it was so cool for me to write this last year. This was 49ers Cowboys rivalry of the 1990s. Throughout the course of this week, at the end of every single video, I'm going to give you guys a story about the 49ers Cowboys rivalry, particularly from the 90s, although I know that we had the 40th anniversary of the catch yesterday. So it's only fitting, it's only right that the 49ers and the Cowboys meet in the playoffs during the anniversary, the 40th anniversary of Dwight Clark's catch. And that was only the second act of this rivalry, right? It goes all the way back to the 70s when the Cowboys and Roger Staubach just ripped out the 49ers' hearts back on the AstroTurf at Candlestick Park. That was in between the period of time when they had grass at the opening. They experimented with the turf. You see a lot of 49ers Cowboys highlights with the old turf. This is not field turf. This is the concrete AstroTurf. So if you remember that, then you're a true fan. You could remember back when the 49ers played at one of the ugliest venues in football and professional sports. But Candlestick might have been run down, but it was a home field advantage. And especially in those years when you got guys slamming into concrete at Candlestick Park, boy, those were the days, weren't they? But the 49ers didn't beat the Cowboys in the playoffs until there was grass again at the stick. That was in the January 1982 NFC title game. That was the catch. We celebrated the 40th anniversary of that yesterday. Then it was the rivalry in the 90s. That was this. This was from the 1995 game, Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders. And now, 25 years later, however many years later, it's over 25 since that 95 game. We're already in 2022. It's wild. We get another installment. In fact, this is the first time in, let me do some math, 24 years that the 49ers and the Cowboys have both been in the playoffs during the same season. That, to me, is remarkable. Either the 49ers have sucked or the Cowboys have sucked, and it's never been a situation where the stars have aligned for both of these teams to be in the postseason at the same time until now, and fittingly, they're going to play each other in the wild card round. So it should be wild. I've actually never been to Cowboys Stadium. I'm very curious to see how, full of 49ers fans it is. They absolutely took over at SoFi Stadium against the Rams on Sunday, to the point that Matthew Stafford even complained after the game that the Rams weren't able to communicate because it was so much of a 49ers home field advantage as far as the noise went. And Sean McVay, in a classic example of bad coaching, said that he was surprised and the Rams were taken off guard by the fact there were so many 49ers fans. It's like, what do you mean you're surprised? In every single game that the 49ers had played the Rams in Los Angeles after LA had moved back from St. Louis, there were at least 50% 49ers fans. And I'm being conservative. I'm not one of these people that's saying it was 80% all the time, although in 2019 it might have been 80%. I would say it was about 70% on Sunday. But if Sean McVay is coaching a football team and making sure that he's dotting all his I's and crossing all his T's, he needs to be ready for opposing fan noise whenever he plays the 49ers, because every single 49ers-Rams game in LA has had a lot of 49ers fans. That was not Sean McVay's brightest hour or brightest 2 hours or 3 hours or however many hours it took for the Rams to blow the lead on Sunday. First, he's in the end zone celebrating prematurely. Then he's panicking at the start of the fourth quarter, holding a team meeting. At that point, you had to figure the 49ers had the Rams close to dead in the water, although they let him get away again because the 49ers love to procrastinate. That's what I wrote about in the piece that's up on your screen. But in the fourth quarter, when McVay was holding his panic team meeting on the sidelines, you felt that the 49ers really had the Rams dead to rights. Let them escape, reeled them back in, got them in overtime. That's where Ambry Thomas came through. Obviously, Robbie Gould came through too with the huge punt. So today I'm going to give the initial Cowboys 49ers preview, but it's still Tuesday, so we're still kind of working on turning the page from that Rams game, which is why I'm talking a little bit about Sean McVay, and I'm sure the 49ers fans don't mind reliving what happened at SoFi Stadium. I absolutely did get some sun today. It's beautiful outside, so thanks for asking me. I got a swim in. I got some sun in. It's 81 degrees, so everything is good, and I'm going to be back out at the team facility with the 49ers tomorrow, watching some practice. So yeah, thanks for noticing. It's been good to get a little bit of color. I am, by the way, asking this question right here, answering this question, and I know the guy who answered the question. So that's a good one. This is my best friend from back home in Visalia. Good stuff. All right, guys, shout out to Colton Norris. Time to talk about 49ers Cowboys. First off, Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence are absolute studs, and they're going to be coming off the edge for Dallas in this game. Parsons has 14 sacks. He's better rushing the passer than he is against the run, but he's still a phenomenal player, one of the young superstars in this league. It's going to be awesome to see Micah Parsons on one side and Nick Bosa on the other. Meanwhile, DeMarcus Lawrence is a veteran. Everybody already knows his name and knew it before this 2021 season, but he's good in both phases of the game. Lawrence can get after quarterbacks, and he can also stop the run. He's the Cowboys' highest graded run defender, and he's just a problem on film in all phases of the game. So the Cowboys are really strong at the edges, and the 49ers better hope that Trent Williams can play this game, because I'm not sure that they could get away with 2 straight weeks of Colton McKivitz at left tackle. In my piece that's up on the screen, I talked about the fact that Colton McKivitz did give the 49ers a valuable contribution, a gutsy contribution on Sunday, but he's Colton McKivitz. He had never played at the left tackle position in the NFL up until Sunday for a reason, because he is a reserve piece for the 49ers, mainly at the guard position. But this team went through some trouble. This team didn't trust Jalen Moore, their initial swing tackle, to do the job for a number of reasons that I discussed on another show. They obviously had already lost Mike McGlinchey, so they were, their most trusted backup tackle, Tom Compton, was already starting at right tackle, and they were in a position where they really had to, dig deep down into the reserve well to make it work on short notice at left tackle against the Rams. Trent Williams took it all the way up to game day, but he just couldn't play due to the elbow injury, and it ended up being Colton McKivitz. And I think that was symbolic of the 49ers season. They found a way to get it done, even really with a scrap piece there at left tackle. And you have to give credit to McKivitz for surviving the game, for doing enough to protect Jimmy Garoppolo in the second half. But I say doing enough because he didn't really protect Jimmy Garoppolo 100% of the time. He took some vicious hits. Some of the turnovers happened because McKivitz allowed pressure. And that was a good Rams defensive front. This is a very good Cowboys defensive front, especially on the edges. And if you have to start McKivitz and Tom Compton again, it's going to be tough for the 49ers to win this game, because they're going to be roaring coming from DeMarcus Lawrence and from Micah Parsons. So I think that if you're the 49ers, you really need Trent Williams in this game to allow Jimmy Garoppolo to make the amount of passes that's necessary from a clean pocket to let the 49ers rush at volume, right? You have to earn the ability to run the football by converting third downs, and Garoppolo obviously did that enough in the 2-minute drill for the 49ers at the end of the first half against the Rams, and in that first drive to open up the second half to allow the 49ers to knock the Rams back on that second drive of the second half with those 10 straight runs. So the ability to pass, the credibility of the pass, put the 49ers in position to administer the knockout punch of the comeback, which was that drive that had 10 straight runs. So that's the question. Can the 49ers pass protect enough? Can they handle Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence well enough so they can get the Cowboys in position to beat them with the run game? Because the Cowboys are much weaker against the run than they are against the pass. I watched a lot of Dallas tape today, and I don't think that Neville Gallimore and Carlos Watkins, the two defensive tackles, are great football players for Dallas. Now, Dallas has faced the number 26th ranked schedule in football this year, if you look at the DVOA and the strength of schedule metrics. And I'm not so sure that they've been tested by a team like the 49ers in the run game. Now, there probably isn't a team like the 49ers in the run game across the entire league. So perhaps it's not fair to the Cowboys because, regardless of who they played, even if they played one of the top teams in the league, I think the 49ers are unique in how they want to run the football at volume. So if the 49ers can manage to run the football at volume, it's these two guys right here who I'm going to be looking at, Gallimore and Watkins. We know that Parsons and Lawrence and Randy Gregory and those players along the edges for the Cowboys are going to be able to bring it, especially if they can pin their ears back in straight pass rush situations. And I think that Gallimore and Watkins can also bring it if they can pin their ears back in straight pass rush situations. But what we're not sure of is how is Dallas going to respond if the 49ers can neutralize the pass rush enough with Garoppolo's quick game so they can establish that run game and start running at volume like they did in spurts against the Rams. See, the glory of the 49ers offense when it's playing well is that it's so adaptable. In the same game against the Rams, Jimmy Garoppolo threw 32 times, while the 49ers also saw a stretch where they ran 10 straight times. That is rare. Normally you see one or the other. Normally you see running at volume because you're just beating the crap out of an opponent. So you could afford to run 10 straight times and score a touchdown with it, with a trick play there at the end with Deebo Samuel. Or you see the quarterback throwing 30-plus times. You rarely see both. But against the Rams, the 49ers saw both. They saw Jimmy Garoppolo throw up volume, and they saw a volume rushing stretch of the game that really knocked the Rams back and turned the momentum of that entire football game on its head. Go back and watch the tape of that drive. It's 17-10. 49ers just start pounding the rock, pounding the rock, pounding the rock. Well, while they're pounding the rock, every single down, Dallas defenders are getting pushed back. Rams defenders are getting pushed back. The Rams are getting tired. And that, I think that sucked the soul out of the Rams because that left them exhausted when it really mattered. And when it really matters was at the end of the game when the 49ers were driving in 1 minute and 1 second, 88 yards in 5 plays. You saw Leonard Floyd wasn't even able to get back on side because he was so gassed, right? He had his hands on his hips. He was stumbling, and the 49ers got an offside penalty when they're in the hurry-up mode after the Deebo Samuel big reception. So the Rams pass rush just lost all of its mojo due to the fact that the 49ers beat the pulp out of them on that 10-play drive. So the question is, can they do the same thing to the Cowboys? Because I think there are weaknesses there right up the middle with Gallimore and Watkins, and I think the 49ers are going to try to dial up some inside zone. Elijah Mitchell's been running really well. Deebo Samuel's obviously been running really well. But you wonder, is this potentially the game where we see a little bit more of Jeff Wilson? Because I thought that his legs had gotten back underneath him, especially in that game against Tennessee. I thought there were some nice runs there over the course of the first half for Jeff Wilson. So will we see that again? And right now with Wilson not having as much of a workload here recently for the 49ers, maybe that's another infusion of fresh legs for this team during the playoffs. So it's absolutely a situation where I think Dallas, this is the number 1 DVOA team in football. They're number 2 defensively, number 6 on offense. I think they're number 6 special teams too. It's a really balanced football team. The 49ers are underdogs for a reason, but you guys know that I love my Star Wars analogies. Number 1 team in football by the advanced metrics. We can call them the Death Star, right? I think there is a weakness in the Death Star, and I think it might be that run defense, just because we're not sure who the Cowboys have faced as far as a team that's able to smash mouth them as much as the 49ers might be able to. Now, it's all going to be about these blocking angles up front. The 49ers typically struggle, and they have in the postseason and, even in big regular season matchups when they face a game-detonating defensive tackle. A guy that, like Grady Jarrett from Atlanta, even Aaron Donald from the Rams. The 49ers have struggled against Donald, but they found a way to mitigate it. But you look back at week 16 of the 2019 season, Donald wrecked that game. Jimmy Garoppolo saved it, right? 2 3rd and 16s that he converted. It was a great example of the 49ers during that title run not being able to, truly stand up and imprint their flow of the game on these game-wrecking defensive tackles. Chris Jones did it in the Super Bowl. I talked about Jarrett. That was in week 15 of that season. So the point here, though, is I don't think the Cowboys have one of those guys. They may be really strong with Parsons, really strong with Lawrence. I don't know if they have one of those guys that could bring that kind of pressure against the 49ers right up the gut and challenge Daniel Brunskill, challenge Alex Mack, challenge Laken Tomlinson in a way that forces the 49ers to go off of their script. I think the 49ers can potentially win the battle at ground zero against Gallimore and Watkins and therefore play this game offensively on their own terms. And that's going to be the flashpoint that's going to determine so much, right? You have so many other things because football is a team sport that will be the primary factors that decide whether or not the 49ers can play this game on their terms. And Jimmy Garoppolo and the quarterback play is obviously always one of them. But I think in this game in particular, this is going to be something to watch because Dallas is so good at so many other positions. You have to beat them at the area where they're not so good. And I think Gallimore and Watkins at defensive tackle, that's where the 49ers might be able to get a leg up. Just watch the tape. I think that you'll see some of the holes there. I think that you'll see the ability for the 49ers to run some inside zone, to soften Dallas up, to run right at them, because that's something you have to do when this guy, Trevon Diggs, is on the back end for Dallas. He's got 11 interceptions this year. That leads the NFL. Big time ball hawk. He's aggressive. And when that defense is pinning its ears back and getting after the quarterback, Diggs is going to have a field day. And we know that Jimmy Garoppolo is, definitely capable of throwing interceptions. So Garoppolo takes risks. Garoppolo tries to fit the ball into small windows, especially over the middle of the field. Trevon Diggs can jump some of those routes. And, last game was Jimmy Garoppolo's most expansive route tree because the 49ers have had to adapt to how defenses are playing them. They love throwing over the middle because it sets up yards after the catch. But when teams are betting on those throws over the middle, Garoppolo has to go outside the numbers. He went outside the numbers fairly frequently against the Rams for some big plays. He had Jawan Jennings on out patterns. The biggest play of that tying drive was to Deebo Samuel, right? And that was a play in which the 49ers went outside the numbers. They weren't going with their standard inside pass game because it was a situation where they absolutely had to use the whole field. Well, Trevon Diggs is going to take chances at certain parts of the field. And that's going to be a situation where the 49ers have to mitigate his impact with a good run game. There's just no other way around it. You look at his Dallas defense, Dan Quinn is the coordinator. Dan Quinn comes from the Seattle tree. Dan Quinn used to coach with Kyle Shanahan. Shanahan knew the problems associated with that 4-3 defense when it came to attacking it with his offense. That's why one of the big reasons why he hired Robert Saleh, who obviously has worked with Dan Quinn in the past too, because that all came from that Seattle style background. The cover 3 has decreased in popularity over the years. That was a staple of the Quinn defense, the 4-3 Seattle defense, all this and all that. But the same principles as far as 4-man rush, getting after it with the edge rushers, and then feasting on the back end because the edge rush is powerful, those same principles still exist. And even though the league is running a lot less cover 3, even though Dallas is running less cover 3, the 49ers are running less cover 3, these two teams are similar defensively in they get after it with their edge rushers, and then they try to prey on a quarterback's mistake with their cornerbacks. The 49ers haven't been as good as preying on those mistakes as the Cowboys. You see Diggs with 11 interceptions, but the 49ers have obviously started to do a better job, and that's what we've seen from Ambry Thomas and Emmanuel Mosley in this past game. For the 49ers to avoid the problems that Diggs can present, and for them to do this, for them to exploit Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis, they're going to have to establish at least a semblance of a run game, enough of it that can take some of the air out of that Cowboys pass rush. because you're going to see Parsons, you're going to see DeMarcus Lawrence coming off that edge hot, and they're going to be coming off that edge with their ears pinned back unless the 49ers can take advantage of what I think is that Dallas weakness up the middle in the run game. Dallas also, for some reason, hasn't been good when teams run to the right. And the efficiency when teams run to the left has been bad. Opposing offensive efficiency running to the right has been good. That's still something I'm trying to put my finger on when we watch the tape. And I do know that the inside zone is something that I saw could be effective against Dallas. But there are spots, there are weak points where that run game can go to work. And that means that the 49ers wouldn't have to deal with the pass rush screaming at them with obviously compromised offensive tackles. We don't know where Trent Williams is going to be health-wise, and Tom Compton is a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. So you got to watch out for Trevon Diggs, and you have to hope that Kyle Shanahan can find a way to exploit Anthony Brown and Jordan Lewis, who are the two other Cowboys cornerbacks schematically. Another player who I think is exposable is Leighton Vander Esch, Cowboys linebacker. He was good as a rookie in 2018. He hasn't been nearly as good since then. So that's something absolutely that the 49ers, that they run patterns out of the backfield. They utilize Kyle Juszczyk. They utilize multiple different targets out of the receiving game, lining up in the slot. If Shanahan can create matchups with Leighton Vander Esch, that's something that Jimmy Garoppolo can take advantage of this game. Other side of the ball, this is going to be a huge test for the 49ers pass rush. The Cowboys are always good up front. It seems that is a franchise foundational piece for them. They may not be as dominant as they have been over the past couple of years, but they're still good enough to protect Dak Prescott. And the 49ers, we know, are now good enough to beat a good pass rush. The Rams were number one in pass block win rate last week, and the 49ers managed to hit Matthew Stafford 13 times, and they also managed to sack him 5 times. Now, Dak Prescott's a little bit more mobile than Matthew Stafford, but you could still bother Dak Prescott, and it's going to be so important for the 49ers pass rush to show up again in this game because we know what Dallas brings to the table as far as an aerial attack. CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, you have Cedric Wilson, and it's not just those guys. Dalton Schultz is also, former Stanford tight end. He's also a capable target for this team, and we know that Ezekiel Elliott will come out of the backfield. We know that the Cowboys have multiple weapons that will strain the 49ers defense. That means the pass rush has to be the great equalizer for the 49ers because Dak Prescott is way too good of a quarterback to just sit there and be able to have all day to pick you apart. That being said, rush and coverage are going to have to work together. And we're going to have a big question answered. Just how, positive is this trajectory at the 49ers cornerback position from Emmanuel Moseley and Ambry Thomas? Because it looked good against the Rams. Emmanuel Moseley had a pick. Ambry Thomas had a pick. The 2 times that the Rams tried to go deep, the 49ers made him pay with interceptions. One was a game-sealing, playoff-sealing interception from Ambry Thomas. You know that the Cowboys, if Prescott has a little bit of time, and there are ways to buy some time for him with some max protect, as we've seen against the 49ers, you know that if there is an opportunity, he's going to try to uncork one down the field, at least one, maybe more than that. And that's going to test Moseley and Ambry Thomas. And they rose to the occasion against the Rams, but the playoffs are going to be a whole different beast. And this is a really, really talented Dallas offense with those wideouts in Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. So we're going to see exactly where Moseley and Thomas are, and we're going to see where that safety help is from Jimmy Ward in this football game. But I do think that so much of it goes down to the 49ers pass rush. Fred Warner's time to shine. I mean, he's a guy that could do both, right? Blitz bullets are going to be so important in this football game. Absolutely huge for the 49ers this is not the 2019 pass rush. It is a surging pass rush. It's looking really good with Arden Key and with Nick Bosa and obviously with Jordan Willis and the Ox guys bringing the heat. But D'Amico Ryans has grown up on the job, and to win that game against the Rams, he dialed up blitzes at just the right time. So he had Dre Greenlaw come in on a game-changing blitz. Fred Warner came in on a game-changing blitz. Matthew Stafford, to be honest, once he started getting hit, he didn't look good in that game. He started being inaccurate, and he started really not being able to read and react to what the 49ers were bringing on the fly. So D'Amico Ryans won the chess match against Matthew Stafford. So now the question is, can he win the chess match against Dak Prescott? and this Cowboys offense. And that's why it's Fred Warner's time to shine, because he's the guy that's playing the on-field chess match. He has the radio in his helmet. He could maybe even call last-minute blitz himself if he sees a good opportunity for the 49ers to get after Dak Prescott. Those are going to be important because this game is going to be won at those critical junctures, third downs, you name it, all those little spots of this game. And Warner also is going to be out there covering guys like Dalton Schultz. So it's going to be absolutely massive for the 49ers to see their defensive centerpiece who can both cover and who could get after the passer and who could make all the distinctions between those two from a play calling perspective. It's going to be his time to shine in this football game. All right, guys, those are my early week keys. I don't even consider that a full preview of this game. There's going to be so much more. I've watched the Cowboys here for several hours today, and that's really where we're at right now. That's where I think the 49ers might be able to attack, where they might have an edge in this matchup. But there's a reason that Dallas is favored by 3.5 points. They're loaded with weapons on the outside. They have a good offensive line. They obviously have very powerful edge rushers, and they run a defensive scheme that's similar to the 49ers. And we know how that can work, especially when you have a cornerback who can pick off the ball. And that's what Diggs is on the back end for the Cowboys. So the 49ers have to neutralize all those weapons. It's going to be a tough test on the road, but it's going to be awesome because 49ers-Cowboys week always is. I want to take a look at a couple questions, but I'm going to run a separate Q&A here in a little bit for you guys so we can actually focus on questions, because I know this was more of a scouting report for the 49ers. Dan Castillo, I was watching Cowboys highlights. David is right that inside zone was empty and they left a lot of gaps up front. Mitchell's going to run all over that defense. It's possible. Obviously, the Cowboys are going to try to stack the defense against it, so that's why it ends up coming down to Jimmy Garoppolo. It always starts with how the quarterback can kind of establish that flow to earn the right to pass, right? You have to earn the right to run. You have to earn the right to run at volume if you're the 49ers, and we'll see if Jimmy Garoppolo can do that. All right, I don't see that many questions. I see just a ton of comments. So we're just going to run a Q&A session a little bit later, as I have to run right now anyway. All right, guys, thank you for all of the interaction. There will be more of it next time. Make sure you subscribe. We'll have that Q&A soon. And I'll also have a video on Jimmy Garoppolo coming soon and how he might match up with the Cowboys. Everybody take care. It's going to be a really fun week.